Have you ever felt like you're crossing a desert that no one else can see? A dry, silent place where every step seems to cost 3 times the strength it once did. As if your soul knows of a promise your mind can't yet grasp. It's not ordinary fatigue. It's not depression. It's not a lack of faith. It's a sign. And what is happening now at this very moment in your life precisely explains why you feel this way, and why this dryness, this emptiness, this thirst that no water in the world can quench has intensified recently. There is a plan unfolding in layers that most of humanity never perceives, a rescue plan. And the desert where you find yourself now is not the end of your story. It is the chosen setting for God to show exactly who you are, because no one is led into the desert by chance. Think about it. What if everything you are going through, this loneliness, this scarcity, this feeling of being forgotten by everyone, was precisely the proof that you are no longer a lost soul wandering through the sand, but the central piece of a rescue that has already begun behind the invisible scenes of your life? I need you to understand one thing before anything else. The desert was never a punishment. In the history of the chosen, the desert has always been a training ground. It was in the desert that Elijah encountered the burning bush. It was in the desert that the people learned to eat the bread that fell from the sky, the bread that couldn't be stored, the bread that taught them to trust one day at a time. It was in the desert that Aaron, while fleeing, wrote the deepest psalms in history. And it was in the desert that Yahweh the Messiah himself prepared before changing the world. Do you see the pattern? God does not take the chosen out of the desert before their time. He leads them through the desert because it is there, and only there, that the soul learns to hear a voice it cannot hear in the noise of abundance. But there's something no one has told you about this desert. It's not just geographical, it's not just emotional, it's not just financial. It is spiritual. And in this spiritual plane, there is a dispute over your permanence there. There is a force interested in convincing you that the sand is your final destination, that thirst is your identity, that the silence of the heavens means abandonment, and it is precisely at this point that you need to open your eyes. The desert has an owner, and the owner of the desert is not despair, it is God. The enemy has merely rented the land for a time, and is charging you a toll of faith that he has no right to collect. Notice how everything conspires to keep you tired. The bills that all arrive at once, the people who distance themselves just when you need them most, the night that comes and sleep that doesn't follow, the prayer that seems to hit the ceiling and return. All of this has a name, and that name is strategy, because a central piece of a divine rescue is too great a threat to be ignored by the forces that play against the light. They don't waste ammunition on those who don't matter. If you are being attacked on all fronts at the same time, it's because you matter too much. The level of the attack reveals the size of the calling. And here is the first truth that will begin to pull you out of the sand. You don't need strength to leave the desert. You need direction. The difference between those who die in the desert and those who are rescued has never been the amount of water they carried. It was knowing which way to walk. Thousands wander in circles their whole lives, treading on their own footprints from yesterday, thinking they are moving forward. The rescue begins the exact moment you stop walking in circles and start walking in the direction the heavens point. That's why I wrote this digital book, The Divine Guide for the Chosen, Protecting Your Kin. This book is not just reading. It was born precisely for those who are crossing this desert I've just described, this dryness that squeezes your chest, this feeling of walking without a map while watching your own family suffer scarcity alongside you. This digital book is the map. A map that shows who is playing against your journey, what the spiritual protection rules are that no one ever told you, and why so many chosen families remain trapped for years on end in the same desert without understanding that there is an exit door guarded right before them. It was made for the chosen one who is tired of asking for rain without knowing how to open the heavens, and who is ready to stop being a victim of the desert to become the instrument of their own rescue, and the rescue of their loved ones. The link is in the first pinned comment, at the top of the comments. But I need to warn you, this type of content rarely stays available for long, because what is in these pages challenges narratives that many people are interested in keeping intact, and there have been attempts to silence this knowledge before. Don't wait for the right moment. The right moment is now. Chosen One. Download it now and comment below, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." Because you didn't arrive at this video by chance, you were led here on the exact day you needed to hear that the desert has an end. And now that you've taken this step, that you've made this commitment to your own journey, I will show you the next truth. And this is the first direct blow against the oppression that has held you here. Pay attention, because what comes next changes everything. The biggest lie you were told about the desert is that it is a place of absence. Absence of God, absence of provision, absence of future. A lie. The desert is, in fact, the place of greatest presence. It is where nothing competes with the voice that matters. Think of your life in abundance. When everything is going well, you pray less, seek less, depend less. Abundance has an anesthetic effect on the soul. It makes you believe that the strength is yours. The desert, however, strips away all false self-sufficiency and places you on your knees in the only place where rescue can happen, the place of conscious dependence. That is why heaven allows the desert, not to break you, but to strip you of everything that is not eternal. And it is here that the game of layers is fully revealed. The visible layer of your desert consists of practical problems: money not coming in, a job closing, health fluctuating, tension at home. This is the surface. But beneath this surface, there is a spiritual layer where the real battle is fought. And in this layer, the question is not how to pay the bill. The question is who is authorized to enter and exit your life and your family. Because there are spiritual doors, there are breaches, and there is an enemy who knows these breaches better than you, and who uses them to keep the desert perpetually dry. While you fight only on the upper layer, he acts calmly on the lower layer. It's like trying to bail water out of a leaky boat with a bucket. You exhaust yourself and the hole remains. God's rescue always begins with the deep layer. He doesn't first come to fill your bank account. He first comes to close the wrong doors and open the right ones. He first comes to reorganize the invisible because he knows it's useless to fill a cracked vessel with water. That's why many chosen ones receive blessings and see them slip through their fingers in a short time. Because the blessing arrived before the crack was mended. True rescue is not just about receiving. It's about becoming capable of retaining what you receive. And you who are hearing this now must already be feeling something stirring within. A kind of recognition, as if a part of you already knew all of this, but needed to hear it aloud to believe. This shiver, this tear that may be wanting to fall, this good tightness in your chest, hold on to that. It's confirmation. It's heaven saying, "This is the way, keep going." The body of the chosen recognizes the truth before the mind understands. That's why you feel it, even when you can't yet explain it. Let me tell you how rescue truly happens step by step, so you never again confuse God's silence with God's absence. First comes total exhaustion, the point where you can no longer carry yourself. This exhaustion, however cruel it may seem, is precious, because it is what finally makes you let go of control. As long as you still think you can handle it alone, rescue remains on hold, waiting for you to open your hand. Second comes the cry. Not the rehearsed prayer, but the true scream, the one that comes from deep within, without beautiful words, just truth. It is this cry that tears through the heavens. Third comes the sign, small, almost imperceptible, a door that slightly opens, a name that returns to your mind, a phrase you hear by chance, a video like this one that appears on the exact day. Fourth comes the courage to take the first step in the direction of the sign, even without seeing the entire road. And it is then and only then that the rain begins to fall on the dry land. But there is a detail that separates those who are rescued from those who continue to wander. The rescued learn to protect what they receive. And this is a skill that no one teaches in ordinary churches, in ordinary conversations, in ordinary advice. That's exactly why I gathered everything I learned in this digital book, The Divine Guide for the Chosen, Protecting Your Kin. Because understanding rescue is one thing, knowing how to shield your home so that the desert never returns with the same force is another entirely different thing. This digital book shows directly which spiritual doors keep your family trapped in scarcity, how to identify who is playing against your journey, and what the protection rules are that the enemy hopes you never discover. It was written for the chosen one who has awakened enough to understand that reality is much deeper than they teach, and who is tired of the shallow answers that merely say, "Have faith," without explaining how, without showing the map, without revealing the terrain. The link is pinned at the top of the comments in the first comment. And again, I sincerely warn you, this knowledge is unsettling because it challenges interests that prefer to keep the chosen lost in the desert, dependent and silent. And they have tried to silence this type of revelation more than once. So don't put it off. Download it now and leave a comment. I am chosen and I will download the digital book. And now that you have committed, now that you have decided to act, pay close attention to what comes next, because this is the part the desert absolutely did not want you to hear. This is the revelation that tears the blindfold from your eyes. The enemy of the chosen is not in a hurry. That is his cruelest weapon. He doesn't need to destroy you in a single blow. He just needs to keep you still long enough for you to believe that stillness is your natural state. He offers you a comfortable desert. Yes, you read that right, comfortable. Because there comes a moment in the journey when the chosen one gets used to the sand. They learn to survive with little, learn to expect nothing, learn to call stagnation patience and giving up acceptance. This is the most dangerous desert of all, not the one that hurts, but the one that numbs. The desert that turns into a comfort zone, and very few escape from this desert because almost no one fights to escape a place where they have stopped feeling pain. That is why God's rescue often begins by making you uncomfortable. It starts by taking away your sleep, disrupting your complacency, planting that restlessness that brought you here. That voice that says, "There's more, this can't be all, you were born for more than this." That voice is not madness, it's not pride, it's not dissatisfaction. It's the rescue knocking at the door. It's God refusing to let you die in the comfort of the sand. Be grateful for the restlessness. It is proof that you are still alive inside, you are still being called. You have not been forgotten. And here comes one of the most liberating truths of this entire journey. The desert has a map, but the map is not hanging in the sky. It is hidden inside you. Everything you have been through, every pain, every loss, every sleepless night, has left marks that are in fact coordinates. The chosen one carries within their own body the way out, etched in the form of experience. What almost killed you is exactly what will teach you to live. The enemy wants you to see your scars as shame. God wants you to read them as a map. The same wound that brought you down is the door through which your authority will enter. That is why the greatest instruments of rescue are always those who have themselves been rescued. You don't cross the desert just to get out of it. You cross it to become water for someone who is still in there. Think of your family now. Think of your children, your parents, those you love. There is a huge chance that the desert you are crossing is not just yours. There are deserts that are inherited, droughts that pass from generation to generation, patterns of scarcity, of illness, of broken relationships, of the same difficulty repeating in the lives of parents, grandparents, and now threatening the children. This is not a coincidence. It is a spiritual cycle that feeds on ignorance. And the chosen one has a specific and formidable calling in its grandeur, to be the one who breaks the cycle, to be the generation that says, "This far and no further." You can be the point in your family's timeline where the desert finds its end and the promised land begins. But to break a cycle, you must first see it. You must understand the invisible rules that sustain it, and no one can break a cycle in the darkness if they cannot see it in the light. And it is precisely this point that I developed in depth in the digital book, The Divine Guide for the Chosen, Protecting Your Kin. Because this is not just a book about you, it is a book about your lineage. It reveals how these hereditary deserts settle into a family, how to identify the cycles of scarcity and suffering that repeat generation after generation, and the spiritual step-by-step to be the chosen one who breaks the chain and protects the children from inheriting the same sand. The digital book shows which doors hold an entire family hostage in the same desert, and how to close them one by one. It was made for those who have awakened enough to understand that protecting the family is not just about material sustenance, it is about spiritual shielding, about guarding the invisible borders of your home. The link is at the top of the comments, pinned as the first one. And once again, I tell you with my heart in my hand, this knowledge is uncomfortable, For those who profit from families lost in the desert, and they have tried to bury this type of revelation before, which is why it can be taken offline at any moment. Don't wait. The right moment is now. Download it now and comment. I am chosen and I will download the digital book. Now that you have taken on this role, I will give you the final piece of this revelation, the one that stitches everything together, the one that transforms you from someone who understands rescue into someone who lives rescue. Take a deep breath, because this is where the desert begins to turn into a promised land. There is an abyssal difference between leaving the desert and crossing the desert. Leaving is fleeing. Crossing is conquering. Those who flee carry the fear of the sand with them for the rest of their lives and live looking back, waiting for the desert to return. But those who cross consciously, knowing what was at stake, emerge on the other side with something no one can ever take away: authority. The authority of one who knows the enemy's territory better than the enemy himself would like. And this authority is the true prize of the chosen one. It is not the end of difficulties. It is the transformation of your relationship with them. The rescued chosen one no longer flees from the storm. They walk upon it. And here is the secret that few understand. God's rescue is almost never a sudden withdrawal. Rarely does he snatch you from the sand all at once. Almost always, he walks with you to the edge of the desert, step by step, teaching at each stride. Because the destiny of the chosen one was never just to reach the promised land, it was to become, through the journey, someone worthy of inhabiting and protecting it. If God took you out of the desert prematurely, you would carry the same fragile soul into abundance that entered the drought, and in a short time you would turn the promised land into a new desert. The time of the journey is the time of your strengthening. Do not despise the path, it is part of the blessing. So when impatience strikes, when despair whispers that nothing will change, remember, the rescue already began the moment you recognize that you are in the desert. Recognition is the first ray of sunshine over the sand. Most are never rescued, not because God refuses, but because they never admit they need rescue. You have already done that part. You have already recognized yourself. You have already positioned yourself. And all of heaven records the positioning of a chosen one. Look back now just for an instant and see how far you have already walked. See the times you thought you couldn't endure another day, and you did. The times you swore that would be the final fall, and you rose again. Each of those times was a rehearsal for the rescue. God was showing you in small doses that he always held you, so that when the great rescue arrived, you would not doubt. Your own story is the greatest proof that you were not made to die in the sand. You are a survivor in training to become a consecrated victor. And from today I want you to walk differently, not as someone lost, but as someone who knows where they are going, not as a victim of the desert, but as a central piece of a rescue plan that involves not only you, but everything you love. Lift your head. The sand beneath your feet is not your grave, and it is your starting point. The horizon that seems too far already has your name written on it. And the God who brought you this far did not bring you here to abandon you halfway. He brought you to deliver the entire journey to you. To conclude this revelation, I need to remind you of everything that is in your hands now. You understood that the desert is not punishment, but preparation. That there is a spiritual layer where the true battle is fought. That the enemy wants you still and complacent in the sand. That your scars are a map. That there are hereditary deserts, and that you were called to break the cycle and protect your lineage, and that the rescue has already begun. But knowing is not enough. You must act, you must equip yourself, you must have the map in hand. And the complete map is inside the digital book, the divine guide for the chosen, protecting your kin. Everything I touched on in this video is detailed there, step by step. How to identify who is playing against your journey, how to close the spiritual doors that keep the desert dry, how to break the cycles that repeat in your family, and how to walk from the desert to the promised land with the authority of a rescued chosen one. This digital book is the practical continuation of everything you felt here. The link is pinned at the top of the comments in the very first one, and I repeat to you for the last time, with the utmost seriousness, this content challenges powerful narratives. It makes those who profit from families lost in the sand uncomfortable, and there have been attempts to silence it before, so it can disappear at any moment. Do not put off until tomorrow the rescue that God prepared for today. Download the digital book now and comment, "I am chosen and I will download the digital book." Make this comment your first firm step out of the desert. Because you did not reach the end of this video by chance. You arrived because your rescue has a scheduled time, and that time is now. The desert ends here. The journey begins today, and you, chosen one, will never walk alone again.